share with you my speaking notes and some documents I want to share with you and with the public in general. So thank you once again and welcome. The collapse of the much vaunted corruption charges against former AG Anna Mabogan, Senior Counsel, former opposition Senator Gerald Ramdeen, is a day that will bring a shame and scandal to the people and to the state of Trinidad and Tobago. The malicious PNM conspiracy has fallen apart, and we must now expose the sordid
and sinister political conspiracy that has now so spectacularly backfired. And as you will see, as we peel away the layers of this conspiracy, it creates very serious questions about implications for state officials using state resources. Can someone help me with this, please? Using state resources for political machinations. And those are my opening remarks. I will share with you details and research that we have. Thank you very much. So, yesterday, the DPP announced for the first time that Vincent Nelson has filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against a sacked AG, Faris Al-Rawi. In that lawsuit, Mr. Nelson is claiming over 150 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars. Over 150 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars. Now, this money is not that of the AG of the state. These dollars are taxpayers' dollars. So the people of Trinidad and Tobago, taxpayers and others, have now this exposure for over 150 million TT dollars. And this claim is based on the breach of an indemnity agreement that Faris Al-Rawi secretly entered into with Mr. Nelson. And I do have a copy of that indemnity. I'll share with you online, and here now in the hard copy form do we have it. So this is here, the indemnity agreement signed between Faris Al-Rawi and Mr. Nelson. The signatures are here at the bottom of the document. So Mr. Nelson's claim for over $150 million, here are the signatures, is based on this indemnity claim entered into between the Attorney General, the then Attorney General, now a fired Attorney General, and Mr. Nelson. I'll come to that again because questions arise. Our Section 90 of our Constitution creates an independent constitutional office of the DPP, where all matters related to criminal proceedings are in the sole domain of the DPP. And this was done for a reason. When the Constitution did that to insulate the office of the DPP from the political directorate for criminal prosecutions, that was a very serious constitutional right, as it were, and protection for citizens not to feel the brunt of political machinations and persecutions. And so we see where, based on this indemnity agreement, Mr. Nelson filed his claim in the civil court. That indemnity agreement purports to grant to the state witness, Mr. Nelson, witness in criminal proceedings, but he is also a defendant. He is not just a witness for the prosecution. He was also charged for matters relating to like circumstances. And that agreement was to pay his fine, and there were other inducements contained in the said indemnity, and this could hardly be authorized by a sole minister. This could not have been just the Attorney General, all on his own, going off on a frolic of his own, would sign such a damaging document to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And that is why I asked them yesterday in my press release, did the Cabinet know and authorize this indemnity agreement? Did the Prime Minister know and authorize this indemnity agreement? Or did the AG just take up himself on a frolic of his own and went off to sign such a damaging document? And what it does, it indemnifies this state witness, also defendant, from having to pay fines, or having to pay any damages, from being sued in any court of law for anything arising out of this, from taxes, in any local or foreign jurisdiction. This is madness that an attorney general could sign it over, not just madness. He doesn't have that power, he doesn't have that jurisdiction. That lies solely with the DPP. And so I think it is reckless or foolhardy to believe that such an important document did not have sight and approval of the cabinet, or at least if not the whole cabinet, of the head of government, the Prime Minister, before it was executed. Whether it represented the product of bad legal advice or not, the document purports to provide a safe passage to prosecution, which lies within, as I say, the exclusive constitutional remit of the DPP and no other functionary. That is a constitutional remit that cannot be taken away, and it is a great protection, as I say, for those who may be hell-bent on machinations and conspiracies and illegal prosecutions. That the DPP, no other functionary. I would say, you studied Law 101, it just takes a first-year law student to understand that the lack of legal efficacy is without doubt. What is more relevant is to determine if it had approval of the head of government and cabinet. If it did so have that approval, the government has lost all legitimacy and authority to continue in office. If this has been compromised, the legitimacy of this has been compromised, if it was a product of the office holder, what that office holder should do now is resign. And should he fail so to do, I call on the Prime Minister to fire Faris now. Faris must go. And I'll share more with you as I peel the layers of the machinations of Faris al-Rawari and others yet unknown. So that is the only thing that we can demand to save our limpid democracy. And I make the point again. Faris has interfered in this manner to sign this indemnity agreement, and therefore raises the specter of whether this is a breach of the separation of powers doctrine, where you have a member of the political arm of the state intervening in the constitutional remit of the DPP, separation of powers breach, and in addition, interference in the office and undermining of the office of the Director of Public Prosecution, separation of powers and interference, undermining of the office of the DPP. So I've spoken to you of the remit, the indemnity agreement. Let's move along now. By this sweetheart agreement, al-Rawari committed the government and people of Trinidad and Tobago to the payment of substantial monies in his vulgar quest for political persecution of our UNC colleagues. As you know, by law, before any claim is commenced in the court, there is something called a pre-action protocol letter. By law, every civil claim starts with a pre-action protocol letter. How is it that al-Rawari did not disclose the pre-action letter, which came before Mr. Nelson's claim in the courthouse? Had Faris done so, his political shenanigans against Ramlogan and Ramdeen would have been exposed at an early stage, so that this prosecution, which was doomed to fail from the start, would not have been allowed to drag on all this time, all these years. Question now arises, when did Nelson file his claim against al-Rawari? How could such a major claim against the state, involving, as I say, over $150 million, be kept hidden from the public? The public demands to know and has a right to know. Why was this claim not immediately disclosed to the DPP and our colleagues Ramlogan and Ramdeen, given the obvious implications for this case from such an indemnity agreement and from the filing of a lawsuit for over $150 million? How much money is Vincent Nelson suing the state for? I can confirm that it is for about $150 million. I want to call on the DPP, Honorable Leonard DPP, Mr. Roger Gaspard, to protect his office and in the public interest disclose and make public the proceedings that have been filed by Mr. Nelson that places us at a risk of $150 million. That belongs to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to call upon the government to tell us what is the status of this claim. Who are the lawyers for Mr. Nelson? Have any of those lawyers received briefs from the state? And I can share that with you on another day. So this agreement appears to have been a meal ticket for life guaranteed by the state through Al-Rawi. He committed your hard-earned tax dollars to fund his political conspiracy against Ram Logan and Ramdeen in support of his own ambitions. Let's talk now about the other player in this scandal, Kewal Singh. There's a famous picture of Al-Rawi attending Kewal Singh's daughter's birthday party at his personal home in Maribor. This Kewal Singh, you may recall, is the man who allegedly purchased Al-Rawi's Porsche Cayenne for $600,000. Al-Rawi never transferred the vehicle at the licensing authority and was only recently, years later, was allowed so to do, which in my respectful view is in breach of the law. So after we called for a criminal investigation into their conduct, years later, Mr. Al-Rawi went and executed a transfer. You think any other citizen could have done that? Years later, you have a vehicle which by law says has to be transferred. And then how could you have paid insurance if the vehicle was still registered in the name of Faris Al-Rawi for years? If you have to pay the insurance, it has to be paid by the person named on the certified copy. So that is still, again, I say we should reopen that investigation into the transfer and sale of this vehicle. So we know about the sweetheart arrangement Al-Rawi had with Vincent. Today I want to disclose to you the financial arrangements, very lucrative financial arrangements that led to Faris's best friend, Roger Kewal Singh, a junior lawyer, and if I'm with no disrespect, a very junior lawyer, receiving about $20 million of state money. $20 million of state money with respect to the Nelson scandal and from other branches of the state. So he came in, first of all, with $6.6 million, and I can confirm this. $6.6 million was paid to Kewal Singh with respect to his involvement for legal services in the Nelson matter. $6.6 million. And then we move to other things. I have with me an invoice from Roger Kewal Singh, dated 9th October 2019, in the sum of $4.5 million. That's another $4.5 million for services rendered to Vincent Nelson. I also have in my possession a letter dated 23rd November 2020 from a firm of solicitors in London, BCL Solicitors. And this letter was sent to Faris Al-Rawi, headed strictly private and confidential, demanded payments of £450,000. £450,000, we do that by 10 is what? 4.5 million? Convert into TT dollars, and it doesn't end there. £450,000, about 4.5 million, and then that's for Roger Kewal Singh, and also asking for £275.8 thousand for Tom Allen QC. This comes from the solicitors in London, so that's another 275, help me please, 2.7 million. I also have in my possession a letter dated 7th December from A.G. Al-Rawi to Mr. Roger Gaspard, Senior Counsel, the Director of Public Prosecutions. And this letter I quote a piece and will share it with you. Faris writes to DPP Roger Gaspard, and I quote, "I am mindful of any allegations of undue influence, and as such I bring the said correspondence to your urgent attention for your consideration and advice." This is letters from Nelson Faris. He now tries to bring the DPP into this. Too little, too late. Too little, too late. You've already broken the constitutional remit, undermined the office of the DPP. And then he puts in the same letter, "Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me, Faris Al-Rawi." By letter dated 16 December 2020, the DPP replied to Al-Rawi as follows. Brilliant man, I say, because when you see what he said, because his office would have been dragged into disrepute if he had not responded. 2020, December 16th, I quote, "Respectfully, I decline to proffer any advice to you in this matter, since the handling of same and its potential progenies falls entirely within your purview, that is Farris, and that of your legal advisors, DPP said. Further, it is my considered opinion that it would be improper for my office to associate itself with this development. You understand what the DPP is telling? You have trespassed on the remit and functions of the office of the DPP. So the DPP has nothing to do with it, and he has made that very clear. So much so that the case collapsed because of all the machinations and conspiracy behind it. It doesn't end there. Payment of legal fees. I can confirm that Faris Arwari paid the BFF, best friend, Roger Kewal Singh, over $6.6 million in legal fees on behalf of Vincent Nelson. He also paid the legal fees for Mr. Nelson's British lawyers in the sum of $2.7 million. Those were the numbers I was quoting before. We have the letters and the invoices, and I can confirm that these monies were paid. I can confirm that the government also paid Kewal Singh, ensuring that Kewal Singh was happy like Papi. So he was also getting briefs from state enterprises and entities. I say this is a junior lawyer, with the greatest of respect, a junior lawyer. He received 80% of the legal work from the Southwest Regional Health Authority and was paid $3.6 million. And I have that letter here, which I'll show you, where the Minister of Health, in response to a Freedom of Information application, discloses all these amounts paid by the Ministry of Health through the Southwest Regional Health Authority. 80% of their briefs went to Mr. Kewal Singh. So this is in addition to the numbers I've already called. That's why I'm saying it will add up at the end of the day to about $20 million in state money and taxpayers' money. So here we have the invoice from Kewal Singh. Then we have the letter from the British lawyers, and I disclose the sums. And this here is from the Ministry of Health, Freedom of Information, listing out that they paid through the Southwest Regional Health Authority over $3.6 million. It doesn't stop there. This very junior lawyer, remember he was a member of the Police Service Commission, which collapsed. This junior lawyer, Mr. Kewal Singh, also got briefs from Petrotrin. And the fees he collected was over $6.3 million. You know, I spoke with a senior counsel today. I said, boy, you are senior counsel. You think you could collect $20 million in different state briefs? First in the Nelson matter, then from the Ministry of Health, then from, I mentioned Petrotrin. And we have to ask the questions, who are these people in the Southwest Regional Health Authority? We call the names another day. They have to account why they gave Kewal Singh junior. So many millions of dollars, 80% of their briefs. So he got from Ministry of Health, he got from Southwest, that's the Ministry of Health, he got from Petrotrin, and he got other briefs that I've mentioned before, 6.6 in the Vincent Nelson matter. So all these documents I'll share with you because that's the proof. I'm not just talking here. And I don't want you to be sued when you print the story because I have the proof to back up what I'm saying. So he was paid, as I said, got briefs now. Briefs from Petrotrin, 6.3. He also got briefs from Faris, from Ministry of the Attorney General, 3.7 million over. So if you add up all of this, you will get, as I say, about $20 million. 13 million here and the other 6 million in the Nelson matters. If you add this to the amount of money Kewal Singh received in the Nelson scandal, he was paid by the state in the last couple of years during this case pending and being charged, people being charged and case pending, he was paid over 20 million taxpayers' dollars. Ask anyone in the legal profession. They will tell you that Mr. Kewal Singh is not by any stretch of imagination a criminal lawyer. Ask any criminal lawyer what is a reasonable fee for a client who intends to plead guilty pursuant to a plea agreement. They will tell you that the range is between 40 to 50,000, 60,000 for junior counsel and between 80 to 100,000 for senior counsel. So how on earth could Arwari have paid his best friend, BFF, over $6 million in the Vincent Nelson's matter on behalf of Vincent Nelson for such a simple matter? I've just called the fees for you. This was a vulgar abuse of public funds, and I call upon the criminal bar to indicate whether it was appropriate for the government to be paying the legal fees for a defendant who was being prosecuted by the state. You think that could happen to any ordinary person who gets charged and then they're paying your legal fees to go to court? So you are both a witness and you are a defendant. You're being prosecuted and you're also prosecuted as a state witness. How could this happen? This is a scandal of the highest order and perpetrated by none other than the sacked AG Faris Alwari. So I ask the following for the criminal bar to indicate whether it was appropriate for the government to be paying legal fees for a defendant who was being prosecuted by the state, whether Mr. Roger K. Singh is a member of the criminal bar in Trinidad and Tobago, and what would be a reasonable fee for a junior member of the bar, criminal bar, in a matter where his client is pleading guilty with a plea bargain agreement. A plea bargain agreement. Why $6 million, above $6 million? Again, referring to the DPP's words, undue influence that I quoted to you shortly a while ago. It is clear from Alwari's letter that he recognized that his conduct would give rise to the legitimate expectation or perception of undue influence on a state witness. Because of the indemnity, because of all the monies that he has paid, it could amount to undue influence. In other words, connect the dots. Undue influence. Was this then a conspiracy with these machinations of the political executive to go after their political opponents, these two gentlemen from the UNC? In other words, it would raise issues of witness tampering and conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. The DPP's response to Alwari's overture is mind-blowing. He tells Alwari that he refuses to proffer any advice on this matter because it would be improper for his office to be associated with such a development. Well said, DPP. More significantly, he warned that he would not be responsible for the potential progenies of this. That's where it came from. It came from Faris. He would not be responsible for what happens and doesn't happen. We see what happened. Cases collapsed. Alwari's conspiracy with K. Singh and Nelson. This letter was dated, as I said before, 16 December 2020, and it begs the question why it was not immediately disclosed to the defendants Ram Logan and Ramdeen. Why? Because this will have serious implications for their case, as it did, which, as I said, led to the collapse. Why did Alwari hide this crucial exchange of correspondence between the DPP and himself? The DPP's rebuff was striking, strident, and pregnant with legal implications for any continued prosecution and persecution of Ram Logan and Ramdeen. So, in my respectful view, Alwari polluted and contaminated the stream of criminal justice. The stench stinks to the high heavens. All of this to fuel his vaulting political ambition to take over the reins of leadership from others and to outdo his arch rival, Stuart Young. He couldn't care less about the lives of people. Couldn't care less about the lives he would destroy and the innocent casualties. He was blinded by his personal desire to get Ramdeen and Ram Logan at any cost, so he could beat his chest and proclaim UNC is corrupt. Today, I demand Alwari's immediate resignation from the cabinet. A state witness has filed a claim against him, which raises serious issues of misbehavior in public office, witness tampering, and conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. It is untenable and unacceptable in a constitutional democracy such as ours for Faris Alwari to sit in the cabinet with such serious issues swirling over his head. Indeed, it was no less a person than Dr. Rowley himself who constantly demanded the resignation of UNC ministers whenever allegations were made, and we did so do. When there were serious questions against any minister, with a heavy heart, we did it because, again, it is the people's democracy that is at stake. At that time, the PNM's policy, when we were shouting everybody must go, the PNM's policy was step down and clear your name first before you can be reinstated. We call again, Faris, step down. Come down from there, Faris, come down. Today I asked Dr. Rowley whether there's one rule for the UNC and a different rule for the PNM. And if so, when did you abandon those vaulted principles that you had? This is the PNM's PRO. I see he's uncontested. I wish him good luck in his political ambitions, but he cannot continue to sit in the cabinet of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The political hypocrisy and stench of corruption is unbearable. As I say, Faris must go, Faris must resign, and the Prime Minister, should he fail so to do, Faris fails to do so, Prime Minister should revoke his appointment forthwith. Faris must go, Faris must come down from there, given all these machinations I've disclosed to you. And there will be more. There is more, as I say, we peel away the layers of something that is so horrible in a democratic republic, a constitutional democratic republic like ours, to have an Attorney General engaging in all these machinations behind the scenes. And they always say, whatever happens in the dark will come to light. And each day more and more revelations are being made which demand that Faris must go. I thank you all very much, and we are open to questions. We will share the documents with you all, both on soft copy and hard copy. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chancellor, Family Museum, you are a senior counsel and you've been a attorney for a number of years. This indemnity that was signed between Faris and Mr. Nelson, as far as you know, is that a binding document?
Well, I raise the questions again. Did the head of the government know of this and or authorize it? Did the cabinet know and or authorize this document? Then it raises serious questions for answering. So is it a legal document? Is it legitimate? Only when those facts come out can we see which way it goes. But on the other hand, I give you a bit more from the claim which I'll share with you another day. Mr. Nelson is claiming that he has numerous pieces of correspondence, text message, and emails, which in a way, the word is that after the fact corroborates that this indemnity was to stand. So yes, I signed it, and then we put it in the cupboard. But then thereafter, Nelson kept asking over and over and over, will this indemnity be enforced? And then he says he has all the text messages, he has all the written things, all confirming that this indemnity would be upheld.
Would we be seeking to challenge its legality and in so doing probably save the country, as you said, 115 million?
Well, the matter is before the court, so there are claimants. Mr. Nelson is a claimant, and the Attorney General is the defendant. That is the job of the Attorney General. At this time, the case is before the High Court.
Now, could you identify the period in which Mr. Tue 11th would have received these monies, the years?
Yeah, it's somewhere from 2019 coming forward.
All the monies?
Yes. I have a date somewhere. The print on this is so tiny, but it's somewhere from in 2019. Or maybe in 2018. If you, I'll confirm it to you before you leave. Yeah.
So some may argue that this money that was paid was owed prior to this whole Nelson scandal.
The answer is no. The dates are clearly after. The monies received or paid with respect to the Nelson matter were clearly paid after Nelson was given his plea agreement and so on.
And paid specifically for
the Nelson matters. The other work I mentioned to you, I said Ministry of Health from the Southwest, that would have been other state briefs. Other work with respect to Petrotrim, I shared with you, other state briefs, and then another one from the AG's office. So yes, there are other fees, but the total is $20 million. Now, I want you to remember how this process works. Is when it is that briefs are given, fees are claimed, which office does it go to for advice? The Office of the Attorney General. And in fact, when I give you the document of the Minister of Health, it tells you that. It says this is what we do, we consult and we take advice. So whilst you may say, okay, it was for other work, I'm coming back to the point, this is a junior lawyer. Why so many briefs? In the Southwest Regional Health Authority of San Fernando there, why 80% of the briefs to this one lawyer? Why is he such a great lawyer? Are there no other lawyers in the country? No other lawyers even in San Fernando? So it raises questions, it really raises questions. And as I say, we have to connect the dots. One junior lawyer getting $20 million. $20 million in, first, with respect to the Nelson matter, from Ministry of Health, from Petrotrin, and other ways from the Office of the AG. And this is a man, Police Service Commission, this is a man, Faris, sold his car but didn't transfer his car, said he sold, didn't transfer until years later. This is a man who went to a personal birthday party in the man's house. I said, his BFF, best friend.
No, I'm not clairvoyant, but I can foresee the government saying that this is just another attempt by the opposition as part of their Get Faris campaign. So how would you respond?
I don't want to get Faris, thank you very much. I have no interest whatsoever in getting Faris, but I will stand for the people of our country, and where there is wrongdoing, I will expose it. That is my job as the leader of the opposition. And when I say all of this, I have the documents. I'm not making it up, we have the documents, we share them with you. You will get every document as proof of what happened. Okay, Johnson, anything more? You okay? Any questions? Good, anyone else? T6, thank you for coming. Thank you all for being here. Okay, I think we could disconnect. Thanks again, have a good